It's time to speak truth in the midst of chaos, to discern fact from fiction in a world of agendas, to take control of your thoughts, define the truth, and live a life set free. It is time for counseling beyond the couch.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for tuning in today to AWAKEN360's Counseling Beyond the Couch, sponsored today's episode by AWAKEN360. They take counseling beyond the couch with focused counseling, effective treatment, biblically based options, and preventative groups for youth through their A360 Wake Up initiatives that offer scholarships to youth and prevention. They are a community of support because nobody likes wait lists. Welcome to AWAKEN360 Counseling Beyond the Couch. So today we're going to run through a short summary. Before we get started, let's do an introduction for your host. My name is Heather Freeman. I'm a licensed professional counselor and the director of AWAKEN360, a nonprofit located here in Springfield over at East Sunshine Street in Suite L, 3259. We'd love for you to come by and see us. And I've got Jenny Sotai here with me. Jenny and I go way back. Jenny is a licensed professional nurse. She's got a lot of experience working as a psychiatric nurse in many different settings, as well as hospitals. And also on top of that, she's just pretty awesome. So she's here to share with us today and kind of share her perspective on different things. And both of us have some extensive background working in psychiatric placements and different various settings. So we're excited to bring that perspective with everyone today. We're going to be hitting 4 different segments in our new show that we're starting. Today's our very first one, so we're excited to have you with us. Those 4 different segments that we have, we're going to be getting started with the Reframe Daily Therapy Hacks. Essentially, think of it like a practical bite-sized tool of counseling. We're going to be diving into some cognitive behavioral therapy. Our goal at AWAKEN360 is to make sure that counseling is available to everybody. So what better way to bring counseling to you than through the radio while you're driving and doing whatever activity that you're doing. We're excited to bring some of the same solutions that we offer in that counseling setting and in that office setting just to our listeners. Our next segment that we'll be jumping into is Off the Couch Conversations. We're excited about that one because we want you to get involved. Counseling is not meant to be just one way. So as much as we can offer education, as much as we can offer solutions, it doesn't do anything if you don't do anything with it. And so we want the public to get involved. That's an opportunity where you can email us at contact, CONTACT, at awaken360.org, O-R-G. Email in questions that you have, email in stories that you have, anything that you'd like to add to the show. We want you to be a part of this experience. Our third segment is going to be called the Berean Breakdown. We're really excited about that. The reason is, if you're not familiar with the Bereans, they were famous for asking the question why, kind of like toddlers love to do. They don't just accept the answer that you give them on face value, and neither should we. So the Berean Breakdown is about asking some of those difficult questions. Some of the questions that we're going to dive in on this show are probably going to be questions that you've asked privately but been too afraid to say out loud. Maybe you've asked it before and the answer you got was, that's just how it is, period. Take it or leave it. Well, I don't know about you, but I was the annoying toddler who ran around asking everybody why, and I didn't accept take it for how it is. This is just how it is. I was the one that asked why all the time, probably annoying to my parents and to my older siblings. But that is the beauty of counseling, is our job as counselors. A good counselor does not give you the solution on a silver platter. If they did, you didn't have to work for it, therefore you didn't have to apply it, therefore it's not going to be near as effective, kind of like getting handed daddy's Corvette. You're going to trash it within first prom day. So counseling is all about asking the right questions and seeking the right answers. And our job as counselors is to ask the right questions to get you to seek out the answer. And finally, our 4th segment that we're really excited to bring to you is Moments That Matter. Jenny has got some amazing perspectives. Between the two of us, we've got, God, Jenny, how many years do we have
together? A lot. I've got a lot of years. I would say 30 plus.
Yeah.
I have 23 years in healthcare, so.
Yeah, and you've beat me on that. I'm probably sitting at a little over 15 total.
So yeah, that's a lot. More than 30.
Yeah, so between all of those guys, we've got several moments, but this is also where we want you to get involved. Because I know that you have more than we do. And as a community, if we pull together, I know that every single one of you have got some pretty amazing moments. Either they've been amazing God moments, which they all are, or they've just been moments in your life where you've had that aha moment And everything shifted after that aha moment. And so we invite you to email us in your stories, email us in your moments that matter, moments that turned the trajectory of your life, and moments that you got to witness someone change the trajectory of their life because of a single thought, or a single instance, and where they were headed for a crash course, and all of a sudden something shifted. So we're excited to hear your stories. We're excited to bring you some of ours. We've got some fun ones together. And we're really excited to have you be a part of this. So we're going to dive right in to our first segment, the Reframe Daily Therapy Hacks. And I don't know, Jenny, what do you think? We're gonna jump off the deep end, and I think we're gonna hit into a dirty word.
Okay.
Conflict.
Conflict. I love conflict.
Oh gosh, you're gonna be like one of the only. Okay, tell me about that. Why do you like conflict?
Well, I think we can resolve things so quickly if we just have a little conflict, if we're not afraid of it. Conflict doesn't have to be a dirty word. It doesn't have to be a dirty word. I think it gives us an opportunity to explore each other, to hear each other, and to help each other. So if I don't know what your conflict is with me, how am I going to help you? Help me help you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like conflict. I like to discuss things.
Well, maybe we're weird because I'm also in that same boat. I think conflict can be very, very uncomfortable, but I have found, we just talked about those moments that matter. Change only happens through conflict.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if you're not willing to have that conflict, then you're never going to make it to the solution.
Exactly. So it takes a little bit of bravery to be able to overcome that conflict. It takes a little bit of strength to be able to face that conflict. But man, it's so important. So today I thought together we could kind of take everybody through what healthy conflict looks like.
Sure.
Because I think the reason it's a dirty word in everybody's mouth is because when they hear conflict, they equate it to fight.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but the first thing I think of is red-faced and yelling. What do you picture?
Yes, I would say that's probably accurate.
Yeah.
I think my heart is resolution.
Yes.
But I don't think that's the first thing that comes to mind when people hear conflict.
Yeah, and it's that, that just sounds terrible. And that's probably been what a lot of people's experience has been. I know, man, so many times conflict does come down to those experiences, but there's a lot of ways that you can look at conflict, and it can be actually the very thing that healed everything.
Absolutely.
I'll go out and I'll say, one of my very, very early counseling experiences was with a marriage, a couple, and one of the big conflicts that they had faced was infidelity. And obviously that one's very loud.
Yeah.
That one doesn't have to be screaming in the room to be screaming within you.
Absolutely.
And it's hurtful and it's painful. But oftentimes there were so many different things that had been leading up to that. And so the infidelity, whichever variation it was essentially the heart attack on the gurney in the emergency room.
Right.
And the couple had just waited and waited and waited to come to us until that had come out. And by the time they got to us, man, you're flatlining, essentially.
Absolutely. That's been my experience in life completely. When you try to avoid the conflict, it's going to bleed over. It's going to start leaking over into other things. You're going to see the conflict. It's going to come out, whether you want to face it or not. But when you don't face it, it's going to leak over. It's going to bleed onto everything.
Mm-hmm. And it gets messy. And
Absolutely.
that is, I think, when we get that red-faced screaming, yelling in everybody's face, when emotions are so high that conflict just becomes so painful, it's searing.
Exactly.
And so the goal with conflict is to not wait till you're in the emergency room, to not wait till it's super messy, to catch it whenever it first starts. And so if you were to rewind back in that in that setting, maybe it was a lack of communication.
Yeah.
Maybe it was feeling distant. Maybe it was various warning signs that are oftentimes very subtle and very quiet. And they don't require us to face them yet because they're not screaming in our face.
Right.
But just like anything in life, if you just leave it and you leave it and you leave it, it's going to boil over, like you said.
Yeah.
So conflict requires a couple things to be in place for it to be really, really effective and to bring healing instead of breaking.
I love this because you teach me too.
I don't know about that. let me be the first to say that I can sit here and teach this all day long, but when it comes to the execution, I recognize just like anybody else.
Oh, of course.
These are very, very hard concepts. And they really require us to act outside of ourselves, myself included. So I can teach it, but God help you if you're a fly on the wall in my house. It does not look like this all the time. I wish it did. I wish it did. And, I teach myself. I wish I could be better at it as well. So the first part of conflict that you need is to be able to have a healthy relationship. There has to be safety within that relationship. There has to be a lot of different things if you want that experience to be the most healing that it can be and to really lead to that resolution. You got to have good communication skills. We got a family therapy between parents and children, right? And there's a lot of conflict there. And one of the things Awaken does is that we work with a lot of families that have had kids removed, and in children's division is involved, and we're working through is to try to be able to bridge that gap that has occurred. And there's a lot of conflict, a lot of history, a lot of hurt feelings, a lot of struggle. And before we can even dive into their grievances against one another, you first have to lay the foundations of how to talk.
Right.
So if you don't have healthy communication in place, if you don't have healthy relationship in place, it's going to make having healthy conflict exceptionally difficult.
Very difficult.
So that brings me to the next thing. In order to be able to have healthy relationships, you got to be healthy within yourself. If you've got two unhealthy people, right, which none of us are perfect, so let's just preface it by saying, are we ever 100% healthy?
No.
Right. So you've got to maybe be at your peak, I guess, maybe like your best version of yourself, or try to get to that position before you are trying to resolve conflict.
I think it helps if also, I find that on some days I'm at about a 20%, but maybe my husband's at a 90. And it's so nice when he is able to recognize that and pull that weight.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to have that give and take as well. I don't think we're always at our peak.
Oh, I hope not.
But I think in a relationship, it's possible that one person can be at their peak.
Yeah.
And help the other one up that way.
Yeah. Kind of compensate for the other. That's the beauty of community, right?
Right.
If I'm having a really hard day, that's when you reach out to your people, your network, and you get support, and they kind of help fuel you. They kind of help boost you up a little bit whenever you need it. And so it's beautiful in relationships. It's beautiful when it happens community-wise, but you need people in your life who are going to help bolster you.
Right. Absolutely. And I think there are times, at least in my marriage, where my husband helps me up into that conflict that we need to discuss or face when I don't want to.
Yeah.
I don't want to. So I'm thankful for that quality in him.
Yeah.
Because it allows me to have that conflict that we need to have. Maybe it's about the trash.
Or the shoes by the door.
Or the shoes by the door.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So conflict 101, if I was to give you an absolute crash course, we could spend days upon days upon days going over how to have healthy conflict. And there's so much to it. But really, if you want a crash course on it, check yourself first. Mm-hmm. Always check yourself first. Are you in a good place to have this conversation? Is the person you're wanting to talk to in a good place to have that conversation? Because you don't want to bake a cake in a messy kitchen.
Right.
So get everything straightened out, get everything in the best.
I love that.
It just kind of came out.
I just love that.
We're going to pull some of these out, and I'll apologize if they flop.
Okay. Well, that one didn't flop. I loved it.
There you go. So you need to be able to be in the best space that you can be to be able to have some of those really rough conversations. And the person that you want to talk to, the person that is on the other side of that, needs to also be in that space. Mm-hmm. So if they're not, I would check yourself, because if you're just kind of flying in there just to vent, that's not resolution.
Right.
That's not resolution. What you're looking for is vindication, and that's not going to do anything. So second would be check to see, be courteous, check to see if that person is ready to listen and to be able to hear your words Check the health of your relationship. Be willing to dive in and ask yourself those questions. And then finally, recognize the big reframe on this, that conflict is not a dirty word. It is the very thing that's going to lead to change, and it's necessary and a requirement to lead to health and resolution. All right, guys, so that is the end of the Reframe Daily Therapy Hacks. I hope you enjoyed being able to learn about conflict a little bit. We literally did a 30,000 flyby on that. There's so much we could get into on that, but we're going to switch over into Off the Couch Conversations, again, brought to you by AWAKEN360, Counseling Beyond the Couch. We hate wait lists, so if we can't get you in as soon as possible, we work with our community partners to be able to get you guys into a trusted counselor, even if it's not in our office, because the priority is to get you help. I don't care where it happens. So that is AWAKEN360 with Off the Couch Conversations. All right, so this segment would really be an opportunity where we have people that email in our questions. Again, that email is contact, CONTACT, @awaken360.org. You can email in questions that you have. Between Jenny and I'm sure we could put our heads together and figure out something, but especially with our experience. But we'd love to be able to hear your thoughts, hear your questions. If you guys have further questions about the segment that we just did on conflict resolution, I'd love to dive deeper into that, because there's so many different areas that we could go in with that. But Jenny, I'm going to turn this one over to you. What are some questions that you have asked when it comes to counseling? What are some questions that you've had people ask? What are some things that you've had to, had kids come up to you or people come up to you, patients, and ask you?
I think the thing that comes to the top of my mind, and this really is just off the top of my head.
Beautiful.
What if you don't click with your therapist right away? I've seen that happen, and I've seen a multitude of responses, both from the client and the therapist. And what do you say about that?
Oh, I think that's a great question. I think in an ideal world, you wouldn't have that problem, but again, we don't live in a perfect world, and people are people. I don't vibe with every single person. I would like to think I vibe with most, but I'm very much a solution-focused kind of counselor. My personal bias toward counseling is my job is not to answer or solve your dilemma, or put your puzzle together for you. My job is to bring you the pieces,
right?
And so that doesn't work for everybody. I've had people.
It's challenging. It's challenging. You've done it to me. You've done it to me and brought me my pieces, and I'm like, why are you bringing me my pieces? Just put them together. Just tell me the answer. Tell me the answer.
Right. And that can be really hard. So I think it's different when if a client comes in with one idea of what counseling is going to look like, and they're met with a counselor that doesn't flow that way, then that can be hard. But what's really important is in that first session to know what you're looking for before you walk into that counseling office. Are you looking for, I just want to do 4 sessions, I want to fix this, and then I want to move on with my life? That's awesome.
Okay.
I don't know if 4 sessions is going to always cut it, because like I said, conflict, we could go on for days and days and days. And that is healthy conflict is the fruit of a healthy life and a healthy relationship. So if you and of yourself are healthy, your conflict is going to look a lot more healthy. And so you have to build toward that. It's kind of like a farm. You have to plant that seed, you have to wait for it to grow, you have to cultivate it, feed it, and then you get the fruit. And so that's sometimes what counseling can be like, but we don't want it to last forever. So if you come into the office, share your expectations, be able to advocate for yourself. The counselor should be able to share, hey, this is my perspective on what counseling looks like. This is my treatment paradigm. I personally use cognitive behavioral therapy. I think it's amazing. Sometimes I throw some DBT in there, whatever needs to work, solution-focused, MI, various different treatment paradigms that's going to fit my client's need. But let's go into what happens if you sit down and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't think I can vibe with you. We come from completely different walks of life. You view life different than I do, or the counselor feels that way and doesn't feel like they're going to be able to meet your needs effectively. Then it is incumbent and ethical on the counselor's side to say, I think that this would be the better treatment for you, and I can't provide that for you. Just like a doctor who recognizes you need a special surgery and I'm not certified to provide it, their job is to transition you over. And sometimes for a client, I think that that can feel like rejection. And so as a clinician, the right way to handle that would be to maintain treatment with them so they're not just abandoned. And then to be able to help them find that other counselor that you feel would be good, or to be with them while they're searching that out, and then look at a healthy transfer. I was actually talking to one of my clients the other day, and she was sharing with me that her family member or a friend of hers had been in counseling, had walked in and done like 2 or 3 sessions, and then the counselor was like, "Oh, you need trauma treatment, and I don't do trauma treatment, so you need a new counselor." Period.
That stings.
Yeah.
It feels personal.
Yeah.
So I really think also in this segment, maybe we're not just talking to clients. Maybe we're talking to the therapist as well, because I've seen that experience. And, there are some therapists out there that still need a little guidance. And
oh, sure, none of us are perfect.
So nobody's perfect, but I love that. And I think it takes a true search of yourself to say, maybe we're not the right fit. And then communicating that, how you communicate that is so essential.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think at the end of the day, as a culture, we feel like if we disagree, if we don't see things, if we haven't experienced the exact same things, that nobody can understand. And I think we all understand some of the basic concepts of rejection.
Right.
We've all been there. We all understand what it feels like to be searching and searching and searching and to keep coming up dry.
Yeah.
And so we can all get that frustration. So whatever walk of life I come from or you come from, we're still human.
Right. And that one took me a long time. It took me a long time to understand how to relate to people that maybe didn't have my background. But it's essential.
Yeah, it's what makes us so colorful. And God, the world would be so boring if we all agreed.
Wouldn't it? Wouldn't it?
What color was the dress? Was it blue or was it gold?
That was a good one.
Oh my God, that was a throwback. Sorry.
That was a good one. I have a story.
Sure.
And this really falls under the, just the professionalism, I guess, in noting when you don't click with someone.
Yeah.
So I worked with kids at a behavioral hospital for a long time. And when you work with that many children, what you find out is you don't like them all. And so there's you get this feeling like, oh, I can't tell anybody that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not clicking with this kid. I don't like this kid. That just doesn't sound nice. But one day they had called me from a second location and said, hey, Josh has fallen and he's throwing a fit. And this is not, the true name of this client, but they said, he's fallen, he's throwing a fit. Can you come here? And I said, no, absolutely not. And they were kind of taken aback. And I said, look, let me be honest with you. I don't jive well with Josh. I don't like him, but I do want to see him do well. And I want to see him succeed. And I'm not that person that's going to lead him that way. And I forget who I sent, but they did a wonderful job that day. And that child really excelled that day. And for that moment, it took me to step back and take true inventory of myself. And, am I the right person for him? So I just think that takes a lot of character and self-evaluation. And I think it's okay. I think it's okay to say, hey, we're not jiving well here.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, what's the priority? For us to be, BFFs, or is the priority for you to get help?
Right. Absolutely.
And if we can align on what the priority is, that you want solutions, you want this to be effective. I don't want to waste your time. You don't want to waste your time, but I want to support you in every way that I can support you. And if that means finding somebody that can speak that language, that can relate to you in that way, then that means the greatest act of love and support and kindness is to put that person's needs before your own.
Absolutely.
And you may want to be able to swoop in and save the day and be the one who said, I brought solutions to this case, or whatever it might be. Like, check yourself and what's your priority, your own glorification or the betterment of that person. who needed
Yeah.
somebody else.
I think you also brought up something very important. Advocate for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I see so many people fall through the cracks.
Yeah.
Because they just don't know how to advocate for themselves. And, sometimes that just takes being brave enough to ask the questions.
I got a story. Do we have a minute? Do we have a few minutes on this part? No, we're out of time. Shoot.
Maybe next time.
Man, we'll share that story next time. Yeah, but I will write that down so I can remember.
That falls under the category, I have something to tell you, but I can't tell you right now.
Oh my gosh. Cliffhanger. All right, well, we're going to move on to the next segment, and I will write that down so we can come back to that for advocacy and a really great story about that. All right, so our next one is the Berean Breakdown. Again, brought to you by AWAKEN360 Counseling Beyond the Couch. Man, what makes Awaken different? What makes Awaken different is we're 501c3 and that our heart is preventative care. So I'm so excited. My baby for this year, for 2026 is the scholarship program. And we just finished up that masquerade ball to be able to raise money for that scholarship. I'm so excited. We get to help support at-risk youth in the following school year at graduation. To be able to apply for this scholarship and be able to get that extra help and extra funding to pursue secondary education, whether it's through technical schooling or a 4-year degree. We want to be able to support at-risk youth with education to be able to launch into their future. But our program, A360 Wake Up Initiative, is all about critical thinking, which we're going to get. This whole segment of the Berean Breakdown is about critical thinking. And so we're going to be taking them on how to be able to have critical thinking, how to be able to be good consumers of information, because one of the biggest feedbacks I get from college age and high school age is there's so much information that they're inundated with on a daily basis that at this point, there's going to be so much time spent trying to investigate who's who and what's what and what's legit and what is just bias and manipulation that they throw their hands up and say, who cares? Yeah. And then we have an entire generation of youth that are going to fight the fight for whoever ignited their emotions and their passion, but not maybe for who ignited fact.
Right.
And we want them to be passionate about truth. Whatever that may be in their life, we want them to be able to discern a manipulation from facts. And so the A360 Wake Up Initiative is my pet project. I'm super passionate about it and excited to propel youth. And so that's AWAKEN360's preventative. If you are interested in being a volunteer for that project, you can jump online at AWAKEN360.org. If you're interested in signing youth up, it's 14 to 18 years old, that high school age group. And you can check out more information about that at AWAKEN360.org. So let's jump into the Berean Breakdown. Whenever I told you about this, sitting over at Qdoba when we were sitting there eating lunch, what did you think about this part?
Well, to be honest, I had to think about it a little bit because I think maybe it's my background, maybe it's the area I'm from, but I first thought of the Berean churches.
Oh, I did. So I actually drove by one the other day.
So
I didn't even realize that we had one.
Oddly enough, like I had not put the two together. Maybe somebody had taught it to me a long time ago, but I was like, oh. So that's what I thought at first. And then, I had to recall it. I read my Bible every day, but, to just recall things, on command is a little, so I went back through and I read about the Bereans and I love it because I like to ask why.
Yeah, right.
I love to ask why. So
this is why we have Eric, though, to keep us on par and to keep us from going down the rabbit
absolutely.
hole.
I could ask why all day long, just like my granddaughter.
Right.
Right. So yeah, I'm really excited about this part because I love to ask why.
Well, I actually was, I'm in the middle of a verse-by-verse study of 1st and 2nd Corinthians after my sister had this awesome idea for her birthday. She's turning 50 this year, so early happy birthday to her. But she wanted to go traveling, and so she got all of our sisters together, and unfortunately one wasn't able to come, which was a huge bummer. But we were able to go over to Greece and walk. I think I walked over 10 miles a day. Wow. Like these shoes, man, I totally killed them. But we were able to walk around and see some of these amazing moments. And so since we were over there by Corinth, ancient Corinth, I started diving into 1st and 2nd Corinthians.
Yeah, I love those books.
Yeah, and so obviously in different sections that Paul talks about the Bereans, but just reading his letter and his challenge of the Corinthian church, and then knowing the history of how their lampstand was removed and why, and a lot of it was because their critical thinking. They didn't ask why, and some of the questions that they asked, they were challenging and asking Paul, which Paul was all for. It seemed like the Bereans were the ones that were challenging Paul when he came to speak the gospel. And I love that fact. Like, here's the expert, right? Here's the author of what they didn't know, the author of almost all of the New Testament, right? But we're going to be like, all right, dude, show us the facts.
Right.
We want to believe you. That sounds great, but prove it.
Prove it. Prove it.
And so when we were talking about this A360 initiative and teaching people how to ask why, and really being able to discern truth, the Bereans were the first ones that I thought about, because that's who we as Christians are called to be more like. Right. Is to challenge and ask, and not just accept it because you're a counselor, right? Not just accept it because you're a doctor, not just accept it because you're a pastor, to ask, okay, well, where are you getting that from?
Right, exactly. I just had this conversation with one of my children, and you want your kids to go to your church and just be with you all the time, even when they get older, but as they search for their own churches, we talked about this and how important it is to be in your own Bible, to know God's word in your heart, so that as you encounter these churches, you're able to quickly identify people that might not be in line with the Holy Spirit. So I have found, and I've had that in my own experience, I have followed the God that the pastor told me to follow. And that Jesus looks a lot different than the Jesus I know now.
Does he still wear sandals?
He does still wear sandals.
Sorry.
He does still wear sandals. I love that. But yeah, I think it's so important to ask those questions. And then I think it's important to know where to go for the answers.
Yeah.
And, because when we start seeking answers all over the place, I think you need to seek the answer from the truth first. Start in your Bible.
Capital T, truth.
Yeah. Start in your Bible. And you know what? I don't understand every single verse I read. And so when I come across that, I'll study that verse. And then I start seeking out other, help, I guess, to help me understand it. I got good friends that love God and that also read their Bible. And I'm always so amazed how God speaks through them when I reach out to them with anything. So I think you got to know where to look for the truth.
It's interesting. When I was in college, for my master's, I was writing my thesis, and even before that, when you just have to write papers and different things, they really hammered it in to get really good, ethical, concrete information to put in your paper. Like if I was to put in what is it, QuickBooks? What is that? What is that website? It's like Wiki or something like that. I can't remember. Wikipedia. That's what it is.
That
Wikipedia.
It is.
Yes.
Oh, you can change things on there.
Yeah. So if I'd gone onto Wikipedia and used that as a source for one of my papers, I would have been laughed out my class.
Yes.
Right. My professor would have been like, "What in the world, Heather?"
Right.
And why? Because anybody and their brother can jump on Wikipedia and put in whatever information they want to put in.
Right.
And I was talking about
Did you find that out the hard way?
No. That would have been really funny though. No, but yeah, we were, one of the things that we were taught was where to go to get good information. And I will say, like, it's hard. I was jumping on, I was probably just scrolling through Facebook or something mindlessly. And I saw this, they were talking about that they were bringing King of the Hill back. And we have a friend that can do these impersonations for that show. And it's hilarious. And so I messaged my husband, I was like, oh my goodness, Matthew McConaughey is going to be in King of the Hill. And Shane was like, that's fake.
It is.
Fake news all the way. And it's like, you can't,
I hate it when I share fake news with my husband.
I know.
He's the first to tell me it's fake.
So So, the bottom line of that is like they're not wrong. The youth right now are not wrong, that we are absolutely inundated. And with the technology of AI, I know that they were working legislatively about trying to get a watermark on everything that is created by AI so that you can discern. But man, you can hide those. And it's just crazy because sometimes things come across and you have to take that extra minute to figure out if it's legit or if it's just AI or if it's just somebody's bias. And then if you get into, like, if I listen to one news segment versus another news station, and then and all of that information, really being able to be wise, and not have to go through and do all the research, but just to be able to hear the tactics and the techniques that they're using when they're talking. Because I will tell everybody, like, we're going to start on this section, we really want to equip youth. And so within our A360 program, we're really going to be diving into the different debate tactics that are used. And a lot of those are different tactics on how to be able to take information that was factual and be able to shade it in your light to be able to prove your argument versus the other.
I like that.
And there are very specific tactics that are used in that. With counseling, we learn tactics to be able to ask the right questions, to be able to get you to start asking those questions of why. So technically, if you really want to boil it down, a counselor, I'm going to say this, so don't quote me on it. My husband's going to hate it when I say this. He's going to be like, ha ha, I told you so. But counselors are really good at if they want to use it in a very unwise way, they could manipulate truth very easily.
Of course.
The same tactics that we are taught to ask why and to get you to ask why and to direct you in a direction could be used very nefariously. And so that's why it's so, going back to your earlier question, it's so important to find a good counselor who's not going to be trying to pigeonhole you into a box, right, and to say, here's your solution, here's your answer, because my job is not to give you the answer because that's biased.
Right.
My job is to get you to ask why, and the answers that you come up with, that is going to come from your own mind and your own filter and from your own experiences.
And you know what? When you open that box, when you've opened that box for me, you've opened that box for me during painful periods in my life. Yeah. When you've had to say to me, Jenny, what are the facts?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, Heather, I hate that question.
Yeah.
Because it makes me remove myself from the emotion.
Yes.
It makes me remove myself from the emotion, which I didn't maybe realize was guiding my train. It was driving the train.
Yeah.
And so when you say to me, what are the facts? I'm like, ugh. But when I go over the facts, emotion stops driving my train.
Yes.
And that's really important. I also think people get intimidated to read their Bible.
I'll be honest, the first time I started reading mine, I was like, this is gibberish. How does this apply to me? I don't understand.
Right. And, I have the same experience. Mm-hmm. And here's what I think, though. After years and years of reading my Bible,
yeah,
God speaks to me through that thing.
Yeah.
And God did not have the Bible written for only scholars.
Right.
I tell my kids, God wrote the Bible for stupid people too. Okay. So even
me too.
Okay. So I have found, now this is my experience. I have found, and I think I'm surrounded by countless people that will tell you the same thing. I have found when I sit down with God's word and I ask him to speak to me, mm-hmm, he will speak to me. And it might just be one verse.
Yes.
But that one verse for the first time since I've read it a billion times, mm-hmm, is so crystal clear to me,
right,
in that moment. Yes. And maybe it hasn't hit me the 40,000 other times I've written it.
Yep.
But today, in this moment, that verse speaks to me. And so from a personal note, I want to encourage people to break out their Bibles and read it. Mm-hmm. God really he does have an instruction manual for life.
So when we really start diving into some of these sections, we're going to bring up a concept that I teach in counseling called foundational truths. Now, mm-hmm, if you're a believer, obviously, I would hope that those foundational truths come from the Bible and that truth. If you're not, I work with a ton of people at Awaken. That's a beautiful thing about Awaken, is it's a faith-based organization, but you don't have to agree with us.
Yeah.
I remember working with a woman who was Wiccan. I learned a lot about moon water. All I could relate with was, my mom used to make sun tea. But
is it the same?
I don't know. Like she, we put sun, we put tea out in the sun, and it has a different flavor and it tastes really good. But I guess if you put water outside and it absorbs all the power from the moon, and if you drink it, you get some of the, I don't know. There was a lot more to it, so I don't want to offend, because there was a lot more to what her practice
Right.
was.
We don't want you guys going out drinking moon
No,
water.
yeah. But sun tea is really good, I will say.
Sun tea's very-
but yeah, like I mean, we've worked with people from all walks of life, and not every counselor can do that. I totally get that. But my job is not to tell you what my truth is. My job is to help ask the right questions. And what I have found so many times is by asking the right questions, man, the Lord gets demonstrated just whenever you seek answers. He's there, and he promises that he's there if we just ask the right questions. So I've worked with so many people where I never once talked about Jesus, never once brought up the Bible. I was asked specifically from them not to, and I totally honored that. Totally honored that, because sorry guys, if I'm in the room, I know who else is with me, so apologize in advance. But whenever you just ask questions, like different practices right now, I'm not going to get into it because I know that we're on the air, but different practices about different functions of marriage and different ways to be able to have relationships and it not just be monogamous. That's a growing practice right now in our society. And so when you ask the questions of like, okay, so how does that operate with love? How does love operate in there? How does unconditional love operate in that dynamic? How do you have a safe space with more than two people, and not have power dynamics that come into place, not have shifts in preferences? Like, I mean, again, I'm being very PG friendly here and G rated, but I mean, you can imagine where all those questions could go. And just by asking a question, people start sitting there going, well, they do, what is it, whenever you go hang out with two other friends, somebody's always the third wheel, what I mean? And so it's just like, I think if you just ask the right questions, and that's the whole point of the Berean breakdown, is to break down some of the structures that we've always been told this is just how it is, or this is acceptable, or this is okay, and go, well, why am I feeling so abandoned? Why am I feeling so anxious? Well, look at the dynamics that you've set up for yourself. Let's ask how that feeds into it. And oftentimes people come to the truth on their own and find that some of the same truths that we're taught every single day in the Word, it does ring true. It does ring true. And so the Berean breakdown is all about asking some of those really hard questions. One of those really hard questions that I've had people ask me is, how do I give this to God? I know we used up a lot of time kind of sharing what this segment is all about, but I hope we nailed that point home, that we're going to be getting into a lot of difficult concepts. And we're going to be getting into a lot of different areas where we don't ask the question why, and then we try to figure out why we feel so crummy.
I think that might be a good place to start on the next Berean breakdown.
Yeah, the Berean breakdown.
Berean breakdown. Breakdown.
What does that actually mean? Not just to speak Christianese and say I gave it to God, but
what does that look like? What does that look like in your daily life?
Yeah, in actual practice.
In actual practice, I don't know if we're getting to the end of our segment, but
I think so.
Yeah, I think this would be a great topic for next week.
All right, so there you go. You have your prequel into it, your preview.
I don't think we plan on leaving people with cliffhangers.
It just
long term.
I know. It just happened. I'm sorry.
So stay tuned. All
right. So we're going to be hitting into that and diving a little bit more into critical thinking. But to end you all off, we wanted to share one of the moments that mattered.
I'm so excited about this.
I know, right? So we, I think I mentioned it earlier, we did our first annual masquerade ball.
That was a great time.
It was so much fun. I will say, the whole lift in the waltz was amazing. I think everybody who's watched, Patrick Swayze dance was right. It was amazing. But when we did the masquerade, Jenny and I were getting all the food prepared for it ahead of time, and I was dropping my kids off over at my niece's, who was watching them, and then racing across town to try to get over there in time. And after dropping my kids off, I get a voicemail from the work phone. And so I'm sitting there doing the voice to text where it reads it to me on my car. And I'm driving and I hear this voicemail from a woman who had called in And I guess that morning, she shared on the voicemail that morning she was sitting in the middle of her bathroom floor and was just absolutely desperate. And she shared on there that she has been battling mental illness and just felt like she was up against a wall for 36 years. And had come to that point that morning where she screamed out at God in the middle of her bathroom floor, either you fix me or I'm going to do something about this.
Mm-hmm.
And was not insinuating anything good. And so in that moment, I don't know why, for whatever reason, she jumped on her phone after that, kind of plea out to God.
I think we know the reason.
Mind melding, I guess, but I know why. But she jumps on Facebook and she starts, scrolling through and looking for something to do, is what she said.
I've learned they call that dead scrolling.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
that's a new term.
Yeah,
I always say mind melding, but so she's sitting there scrolling through after having this desperate moment on the bathroom floor, and comes across this masquerade advertisement on the events page.
Yeah. And
she's like, oh, that looks kind of cool. The cover for the masquerade.
It was a beautiful flyer.
I try. I can't take all the credit. But it said so many masks, so many stories. And she's like, oh, what's that about? So she jumps on and follows the link to our website and then realizes that it's a counseling center that's putting this masquerade on, and goes, oh my goodness, really? I just cried out to God asking for solutions on how to be able to conquer this mental illness I've been battling for over 36 years. And you take me right to a masquerade that looks really cool. And then straight from that, you take me over to a counseling center, and reached out to us and said, I don't know if that's an answer from God. I don't know what else would be.
I don't either.
And so, yeah, I'm so excited because we have so many different moments like that. But sometimes it does just take, I guess, dead scrolling on Facebook.
Yes, she set up a session.
Yeah. So, yeah, very, very excited, but it's simple things.
It's so funny what God will use to bring us out of the darkest places.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Little things. It doesn't always have, miracles don't always have to be huge. They're not always parting the water. Sometimes they're just very, very, very small, subtle changes.
Right. And I have found that when I wonder if God's speaking to me, and he'll make that very clear in your gut. So
Well, guys, I'm so excited that everybody was able to join us. I hope that Moments That Matter really hits home with you. Like I said, miracles don't always have to be big. They can be very small, but remember them, write them down, because in those moments where it feels very, very dark, where you feel like nothing's come through for you, it's easy to forget those small moments. I can tell you, running a nonprofit, we've had a lot of those very, very small moments, and we've had a lot of mountains we've had to climb. And it's easy when you're trying to climb that mountain to think about how hard it has been, and that you haven't had those moments that God's pulled through. And then you have to remember, go back, look at all the things that he's done. They may not have been huge, they may not have been earth-shattering, but they were earth-shattering in that moment. And it only takes one degree to create a huge lasting change in the trajectory down the line. So I'm so glad that you guys were able to join us at AWAKEN360 Counseling Beyond the Couch. We're looking forward to hearing from you guys, and we're looking forward to seeing you guys next week, every Friday from 4 to 5.